Welcome back, friends, or welcome if you're new here. I have two new recipes for you today, and I'm going to show you how to easily and deliciously add some superfood nutrition into a couple of classic comfort foods, meatloaf and mac and cheese, with a dairy-free option. Let's get started. The two superfoods we will be working with today are pumpkin and butternut squash. Now, I grow both of these in my garden, and while I do have some home-canned pumpkin and squash on my shelves, I also still have some fresh ones in storage that I'd like to use up before they go bad. So the first thing you will see me doing is roasting up my fresh pumpkins and butternut squash. I just poke some holes in them with a fork and roast them whole at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour and 15 minutes, depending on the size. Then I pull them out of the oven, cut them in half, scoop out the seeds into a separate bowl, and then scoop out the flesh and discard the skin. Now you can roast the seeds for a healthy and delicious snack, but I like to give mine to my chickens, especially this time of year when there's not much for them to graze on outside. The skins can go into your compost pile if you have one. I'm going to run the pumpkin and the squash through my Vitamix blender to smooth it out, but you could also use a food processor or just mash it with a fork if you want to. If you are not starting with fresh pumpkin and squash, these recipes will be even easier, as you can just use a store-bought can of pumpkin puree and add that to your meatloaf, or the butternut squash can come already cut up in the produce section, or you can get it cut up in the frozen food section as well. Here's why we are adding pumpkin to our meatloaf. Not only does the pumpkin provide added moisture and works as a binding agent in this meatloaf, but it also brings a plethora of health benefits to the table as well. Pumpkins contain many different vitamins and minerals that are beneficial to the body, and I will list them on the screen for you here. This combination of nutrients provides your body with important antioxidants, which are anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and protect your cells, which could potentially decrease your risk of getting cancer. Other benefits of pumpkin include improved vision health, skin health, circulation, bone health, energy, metabolism, hydration, nerve function, iron absorption, oxygenation of the blood, muscle health, blood sugar regulation, and improved digestion. Did you have any idea that pumpkin was such a superfood? This is exactly why we are going to sneak some of it into our meatloaf tonight. I'm also going to add in some of the bell peppers that I had freeze-dried and already had on the shelf just because I have them to use up and I want to put them in something. But you don't have to add green peppers to yours. Now, I have a lot more squash here than what I need for these two recipes, so I am going to measure out 1 cup of squash into each Ziploc freezer bag and store these in the freezer for later. I have these awesome shallow locking bins that fit in the freezer really well, and they keep all of my random little Ziploc bags from spilling all over the place in the freezer and causing an avalanche. I can link these containers below. They're also great because you can write on the handles with a dry erase marker to label what's in them, and they also stack really well on top of each other too. My aunt always told me about how my grandma used to use meatloaf as a way to use up all of her leftovers. Whatever leftovers she had on hand, whether it was meat, veggies, bread, whatever it was, she ground it all up and threw it in the meatloaf. And she made my aunt swear not to tell my dad what was in it because he was a picky eater. So while I'm using pumpkin and green peppers today, you can add in any veggies or flavors that you have on hand. This recipe is just an idea generator, but I highly encourage you to make this your own. My best tips for sneaking veggies into food for picky eaters are to puree them, to make them unrecognizable, and to season them up with the same seasonings you're adding to the rest of the dish so that the flavor of the veggies will be hidden too. I'm just making this meatloaf for myself today, so I'm not worried about grinding up the green peppers. I'm seasoning my meatloaf with sea salt, pepper, oregano, and nutritional yeast. But again, use whatever seasonings you like. You could use garlic, onion, Italian seasoning. You could even throw some cheese in there. Whatever you like in your meatloaf, go ahead and use that. Now, if you know me at all, you know that I'm the kind of cook who likes to measure with my heart. I just eyeball most of my measurements and play around with it until it looks right. But if you are a person who needs specific measurements, I do have a recipe for my family's favorite meatloaf on my website, so I will link that down below. Otherwise, you can just use whatever your favorite meatloaf recipe is, and you're just going to add in about 1 cup of pumpkin puree. And again, make sure you season it with the same spices so it blends in. Now today I am using gluten-free oats in this recipe, but you could also use breadcrumbs, cooked quinoa, or cooked rice instead. I always use a meat thermometer when I cook meatloaf to make sure that it is cooked perfectly, so I will link that down below for you too. To be totally honest, I wasn't expecting this meatloaf to taste as good as it did. I was just trying to use up some of our freeze-dried veggies, but those green peppers really added a nice flavor. I will definitely be making this again. The next recipe I'm making is also posted on my website. My website, by the way, is thathomesteadingmom.com. And I will link that recipe down below as well. Like I said, I don't like to follow recipes. I just throw in what I have on hand at the time, and I don't really measure anything. So I will be deviating a bit from the recipe I'm linking for you, but the one that I linked is a tried and true winner, so don't be afraid to follow that one. So now we are making my butternut squash pasta. Butternut squash has mostly the same health benefits as the pumpkin does, so this is another superfood that is absolutely packed with nutrition. Now, whether you're using a fresh butternut squash or you bought a cubed one or a frozen one, just be sure to roast it in the oven before mashing or pureeing it. For this recipe, you will combine 1 cup of butternut puree, 2 cups of milk or a milk substitute, whatever you use if you're dairy-free, and any seasonings that you choose to use. You're going to combine all of those things in a saucepan on the stove. And again, I will link the recipe down below so you know what seasonings I used in my tried and true recipe. Today I am using salt, pepper, nutritional yeast, and some goat milk because that's what I have on hand. So all you're going to do here is warm this up over low heat until it's hot, stirring frequently to make sure it doesn't burn on the bottom. So as for the rest of the recipe, all you need are noodles. I'm using gluten-free brown rice noodles from Jovial, which is my favorite brand. I can link them for you if you're interested, but you can use any kind of noodles you want. So I generally try to eat pretty low carb, but my doctor told me that when I do eat carbs, it's best to pair them with some fat and protein to help my blood sugar not to spike. So for this reason, I usually cook my noodles in bone broth and butter instead of just boiling them in water. So this adds so many extra nutrients. Bone broth is so good for you, and butter provides healthy fats to the dish. And it also tastes amazing. Where I'm from, we call these noodles Amish butter noodles. But just try to use the grass-fed butter if you can. I like the Kerrygold brand the best, but I also do buy the Irish grass-fed butter from Aldi sometimes too. That one's a little bit cheaper. So if you're going to make your noodles in broth and butter instead of using water, you want to use 4 cups of broth and 1 stick of butter per pound of pasta. So you're going to bring the broth and the butter to a boil before you add the noodles, and then put the noodles in, cook them on high, stirring frequently until they begin to soften. Once they start to soften, turn the heat down to low or medium low and put a tilted lid on the top. And then just let the noodles finish cooking. You want to keep stirring frequently as they're cooking though. So once your noodles are all the way done, they will have absorbed most of that moisture. And you're going to just pour the butternut squash sauce over top of the noodles and enjoy. So if you are able to do dairy, this would be delicious with some shredded cheese mixed in or melted over the top. And it's so good, you're going to forget that it's made from vegetables. Now, I hope you like these recipes as much as I do, and I would love to hear in the comments how you guys manage to sneak vegetables into foods for your picky eaters. Parenting is hard, so if this can be a platform for people to help each other out and get advice, please feel free to use the comment section for that purpose. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications if you're new here so you won't miss a thing, and give this video a like if you found it helpful. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. God bless.